Hello and welcome to Inside AI, where this time we're taking a look at how artificial intelligence and deep learning uses facial, voice and text recognition to create content. In this episode, we'll be heading over to the BBC's Blue Room, where Spencer Marsden will be showing us an image synthesis technique more popularly known as deepfake. We'll also be talking to Philip Robinson about the ethical challenges of artificial intelligence in content creation, and we'll be meeting the award-winning bot Mitsuku. But first, let's start right here at Scan, where our digital signage department have been working with software partners Blue to deliver cutting-edge technology to the retail and marketing world using the Active Customer Intelligence Suite.
Artificial intelligence can now be used to improve the in-store customer experience. That's why Blue created the Active Customer Intelligence Suite, which includes intelligent solutions designed to communicate, analyze, and automate actions that boost your business. What makes the Active Customer Intelligence Suite special is its artificial intelligence engine that automatically learns from audience preferences, demographic data, sales and inventory, among other parameters, to optimize content management.
So joining me now from Scan's digital signage team is Pete Davies to tell us how the Active Customer Intelligence Suite is being used alongside digital signage. Thanks, Pete. What have you brought here with you?
Hi, Nikki. Here we've got a commercial digital screen. This is a similar screen that you might find in any retail environment. It's running our Blue Active Customer Intelligence Suite. And here, for the sake of today's demonstration, we're running the Blue Anonymous Audience Analytics technology.
Excellent. So why would this be important, and what kind of people are using this?
The majority of people that are using this type of technology are retailers. These days, a lot of companies use digital signage to market the products that they might be selling, but it's very, very important to understand the effectiveness of that digital signage. As you can see on the top of the screen, we've got a little camera. What this camera is doing, naturally, it's looking at the people that are potentially looking at this screen to understand the demographic of the viewers. It looks at things like age, gender, and potentially the dwell time of the people that are looking at the content. But not only the people that actually look at it, it's also looking at people that potentially could have looked at it.
So that information that you've just explained to us then is obviously really powerful and interesting stuff. But does that change the content at all then? So if it identifies, for example, that I'm female, is that going to change what pops up on the screen?
Yeah, generally in the first instance, what we would do, a brand might have the digital screens with the audience analytics technology, and for a little while we might understand the audience, and with this we can understand the effectiveness to see if people are actually engaging with the content or not. If for example you've got a particular marketing campaign where people are not interacting with it, we can look at changing that content over a period of time to see that having an increase in people actually viewing the content. Then once we've gathered all this data and we can understand the people that are actually looking at this content, the times of the day, the days of the week, how long they actually view pieces of content, what we can actually do then is to look at taking it a step further and looking at contextual advertising, targeted advertising. In other words, as you quite rightly mentioned, if this is a screen in a particular retailer, it would play generic content, but what that retailer really wants to do is target you as a customer, because the time that it gets to get your attention on a digital screen is very, 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 very short. So what we would do is play a generic playlist, and then when you as a lady would walk in front of that screen, as an example, we could show you content that we think is more relevant to you. This way, it's working much harder and much more effectively for the brand.
Fascinating, isn't it? And very powerful. I want to pick up on one thing that you said, though, about it being anonymous, which is really important, isn't it? People have got lots of reservations about sort of their data out there, but this doesn't actually record anything or send that information anywhere, does it?
No, this is actually working on the edge of the cloud. In other words, what the camera's doing, it's looking at you, and on the fly, it's making an assumption to understand your age and your gender, and like I said, potentially what you're looking at. But we don't record images, we don't take any videos. It's literally making that assumption at that moment in time, and then hopefully potentially serving you with the right content at the right time.
Wow, so it's really interesting and powerful stuff, isn't it? Now, I'm a bit apprehensive about this next bit, but shall we have a go and see what it picks up with me?
Sure.
Okay, so our studio team are going to change what's on the back screen here so that we can see what's running in the software. Okie doke, so it's detected that I'm female, thankfully. Yes. What else has it picked up?
So what we can see on the screen, this is the software that's running in the background. As you can see on the screen, it's detected you as an adult with an age of 31, and You can see that the pink border around the information, that tells us that we've actually detected you as a female. Obviously what's very important for retailers as well is to understand the attention time. So you can see here we've got dwelling attention. This helps us understand what the content you're actually looking at, because obviously the customers don't see this. This is just a software algorithm that's running in the background. But with this information, depending on the particular advert that would be on the screen, we would be able to say that this is having a really good effect, and it's targeting ladies in their 30s.
Hey, it's pretty clever, isn't it? So tell us how retailers might use this information then effectively.
So the retailers would work with the brands, because the brands would generally pay for advertising space on the screen. They don't mind paying the money for the brand advertising because they're actually getting a return on investment on what they're actually spending. And this way the retailers, more often than not, the money that they get from their advertising revenue pays for the screens and the technology themselves.
Excellent. So it's pretty powerful stuff then, isn't it? Like you said, return on investment is key. For people that are watching and want to find out more about the BeAdBlue software and digital signage, how do they get more information?
If you'd like to contact us on our website or call any of the sales team, we'll be happy to help.
Excellent. Pete, thank you very much. Details are on the screen there. Fascinating stuff. But now we're going to take a look at how deep learning techniques are being used to create fake content. The BBC recently conducted an experiment using one of their newsreaders to understand what it takes to create a compelling video reanimation using AI and deep learning, and then researching what can be done to detect manipulated media. So I went to find out more at the technical wonderland that is the BBC Blue Room to speak to Spencer Marsden.
Llegaron al Reino Unido en 1959.
不好意思，我英语之外什么都不会说。父母说古吉拉特语的时候，我能听懂。
What we've got here is video synthesis technology in which we want to put words into someone else's mouth. Now, in this example, we're putting the same words that you're saying but in a different language. So we have a target and a source. And the source is a BBC translator, and the target is a BBC newsreader. What happens is the software, the video synthesis software from a company called Synthesia, it analyses the facial movements, the source, the translator. Because when you speak, it's not just your mouth that's speaking, it's your eyes, it's the face, it's the neck muscles, it's the whole caboodle. And also analyses the face of the target, the newsreader, and maps exactly across, almost like a puppeteer.
Wow.
Onto his face. So he's then speaking fluently in a relaxed fashion words from someone else.
Mis padres llegaron al Reino Unido en 1959.
不好意思，我英语之外什么都不会说。父母说古吉拉特语的时候，我能听懂。
Fantastic. And is this something that's going to be adopted everywhere then? Is this kind of easily accessible, affordable, or where are we at with it all?
Well, I would say that a stage where you would look at this is, say, an English-speaking actor in a film wanting to dub it for a large territory, say China or India, that they're not fluent in, and then using software like this to keep the immersion, to keep the believability of that actor and better buy-in from the audience. And advertising as well, so you could make one advert and then have it into different territories. We've all seen badly dubbed adverts. Also, it brings up things about manipulating truth.
Okay.
So. There's the potential, because essentially what we're doing is we're putting words into someone's mouth, and here it's a newsreader who's talking the same stuff, the same script but in different languages. But if we substitute this newsreader for, say, a politician, then we could have a politician saying anything else. And for the source, let's say we had a mimic, an impressionist, and we could have our politician saying all sorts of stuff with the ramifications of that happening in the real world.
It got me thinking about my full-time employees and their ability to survive on $8 an hour in New York City. And foremost in all of our minds has been the loss and the grief felt by the people of Orlando. Most of us don't get our health care through the marketplace. We get it through our job or through Medicare or Medicaid. And what you should know is that thanks to the Affordable Care Act, your coverage is better today than it was before. Women can get free checkups. And you can't get charged more just for being a woman. To give his employees...
Just by this existing also means that someone could say, well, that was faked. even if it wasn't. So it's
Yeah. Just to cast it, it's like a Pandora's box, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, a lot of technology brings out these sort of kind of challenges, and the thing to do is just to be aware of it, and you know, what are the ways we can you know, look at the ways we can detect it. Sure. Do we embed stuff into the video? Do we use kind of a blockchain technology, both in the video making and the video playback, to confirm that something is what it purports to be?
Yep.
Also to, you know, if we're checking on a piece of content from different sources to confirm it, you know, critical analysis sort of stuff.
Okay, and as the viewer then, have you got some tips on how we can potentially spot fake news then?
Yeah. I'd say that if you're basically in the content itself, if you're seeing kind of weird distortions around the head with kind of video glitches, and if a piece of content is could potentially, you know, be fake, then look around for different sources of that, see what conversations are happening around it, but there's also artificial intelligence, you know, machine learning systems for detecting fake videos as well. They're not in, you know, major use yet, but as this would become more of a problem, then we can see that becoming more prevalent as a solution.
Just to reassure people then, because obviously we spoke about some of the challenges, this software is not A, readily available, and B, the process is so involved that it's not a case of you or I or somebody out there is able to get hold of it and spread fake news and put their own messages out there. We're nowhere near that, are we?
No. Well, I mean, you're absolutely correct in that. The companies that have been involved in doing this are the leaders in their field. A lot of computational resources, a lot of expertise in machine learning, and also, you know, if you're going to be in the public view with this stuff, you want to be responsible. You know, you want it to be a positive thing. So it's not a thing to worry about right now. And by understanding it, the BBC and other news organisations are able to, you know, spot it or challenge it. So I don't think it's not going to be something that we're dealing with in the immediate future.
So no major concern right there. And as you said, the positives are just, you know.
Yes.
Endless, aren't they? The way that this will be used in movies is a really great example, commercials and generally across the media. Thank you very much, fascinating, really enjoyed that.
You're welcome.
Obama speaking his words from a quarter century ago.
Although I'm honored, and I think people can say that my election symbolizes some progress, at least within the small confines of the legal community, I think it's real important to keep the focus on the broader world out there and see that for a lot of kids, the doors that have been open to me aren't open to them.
We can even create an Obama video from voice impressionists.
Here we go. President Barack Obama. When you're giving a speech, make sure you use a lot of pauses and speak in a very weird timbre. Up and down and up, down, down.
So there we have just some of the ways that deep learning and AI are being used in the media, opening up endless opportunities. But in the same breath, these advances in technology bring some fairly big ethical challenges. So whilst I was at the BBC, I caught up with Philip Robinson from BBC Technology Strategy and Architecture to discuss this further. Philip, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
So talk to us first of all then about what some of the opportunities are, about some of the applications that we've seen, how AI and deep learning is going to benefit the media.
The main opportunities that machine learning, deep learning bring for us would be in the areas of content enrichment and insight. Content enrichment is essentially that process of taking content such as video, images, audio, and drawing out from that metadata description. So you go from just having people's faces appearing to suddenly knowing their names, their ages, where they've been, possibly their relationships, and having that presented to an audience as well. But also that's very useful for journalists, for story makers, for documentary makers, and so on, for researchers to have that knowledge generated directly from existing content. So imagine BBC's archive that goes back 100 years. Now suddenly we can go into that archive and all the audio there that we don't have a text transcript for, we can suddenly automatically get that transcript from all this audio. We can do translations of that transcript so we can have it available in various languages.
It's really quite amazing. I mean, when you're talking through that, my eyes probably grew wide at one stage when you said, you know, you can find out when people, you know, where they've been, their relationships.
Yeah.
That brings up, I would imagine, some big questions for people in terms of morals, ethics, you know, all that sort of stuff. What are the challenges then for somebody like yourself to make sure that people are protected, first and foremost?
There is this thing that this principle that we hold, that no, everything is possible. There's this saying in the ethics community that the ethics, there's not a problem with ethics, right? We understand ethics. Ethics has evolved over, you know, many generations. But the challenge is, how do we take our understanding of ethics, of being good to each other, being good citizens to each other, of not intruding people's privacy, not being malicious, not doing things that lead to harm, how do we translate that into engineering principles in the way we create training data, so that training data is not biased or it's not intrusive, into what do we publish from when the machine is able to analyze a data set or to analyze content. What do we publish, what do we withhold, what do we suppress, and so on.
And what are some of the principles then that you would apply in that area to make sure, like you say, some of the reasons privacy is protected, big questions like where does that data go?
Yeah, so in a place like the BBC, there are probably three places we need to think of. There's the information security aspect of it, where we have classification levels on information. We want to make sure that suddenly, because we are applying machine learning to content, that data isn't escaping those classification levels. So if we have data that's classified or private, we want to keep that label associated with that data. The second area is legality, the legality area, where we want to ensure that liability is clear, responsibility is clear. It's sometimes romantic to say, can machines behave evil? Can machines be unethical? And sometimes we have to take that back and say, the question is about people and organizations. It's not really about the machine. And yes, we can have errors in machines, or the machines can fail. But the responsibility has to roll back to individuals and organizations. Another principle is predictability, that we try to have in any of our systems, so that we know under a given set of conditions with a set of input data, this is the expected behavior or set of outputs of a system. Auditability, if things go wrong, can we trace and find out where things went wrong? And could we perhaps rectify them? The robustness of systems is also another important factor to have in there, so that, generally we don't want people able to hack our systems and make them misbehave.
Never good.
Exactly. And then from the end user perspective, it's really about simplicity and explainability. There's an education element in there as well, where people need to have an education about how does machine learning work. In some cases, it's not being purposely offensive, or biased and so on, but that leans on, that's input back to the engineers that, okay, we need to create a wider training set, or we need to change our model in between. Our model is wrong, and it's not something's wrong with the end user. I think that's going to change on a case by case or domain by domain basis. It really depends on the end application. I think there are cases where we will see no need for human intervention because we have a sufficient data set. But a lot of it also leans on public awareness as well, on the education of people about systems, because education tends to reduce some of the impact or the tolerance for things being wrong and for feeling part of a solution as well. I think that's a really important thing, that the general public start to feel part of the solution, and that they can have an input and a say into the improvement of some of these systems as well.
So we've talked about some of the challenges there, which is inevitable with any sort of new technology, if you like. But let's go back to the opportunities, because they are vast, aren't they? So, in your role, what do you do on a day-to-day then? Are you reacting to what's happening? Are you looking ahead? Are you predicting trends? Tell us about that.
So a lot of my work, on my day-to-day work, is trying to look at those three areas, and also looking outside and beyond the BBC at other organisations, what they're doing and where we share opportunities.
What are you most excited about then in the future? You've probably had more of a glimpse than we have in terms of how AI and deep learning might be applied within the media Anything you're most excited about, or something that you think we might have maybe access to in, say, 10 years?
In 10 years. So I think one of the things that I was really blown away by looking at a lot of the machine learning stuff is maybe the voice synthesis area.
It's incredible, isn't it?
I think that is really at the stage now that it's believably unbelievable.
Yes, believably unbelievable. I love that term. Yeah. Well, listen, Philip, thank you very much for your time. Really enjoyed our chat.
Enjoyed that as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, we've looked at facial and voice recognition and some examples of how AI and deep learning has opened up the ways this can be used for marketing, program making and content creation. Time now to turn our attention to text recognition, more specifically bots. And I had the great pleasure of chatting to Steve Worswick, who came into the studio here at Scan to talk about Mitsuku, his award-winning bot. Very nice to have you here with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much. Now, before we talk about Mitsuku, let's explain what a bot is.
Yeah, so a chatbot is a computer program that you can talk to like a normal person. So instead of having to memorize commands or click on icons or remember exact syntax, you should be able to speak to it in natural language, just like we're doing now. The bot should understand it and give you a sensible answer back. So some common bots include, Apple's Siri on the iPhone, and more recently the Amazon Alexa, and even like Cortana on Windows now as well.
Some of the reasons might be quite obvious, but give us some examples of why you would use a bot.
Yeah, I mean, they're 24/7. I like to see them as like relieving sort of like human operators from mundane tasks. Yeah. I dare say, like in some companies, you just ask the same questions again and again and again, and it must be extremely frustrating. Well, these bots can handle all that kind of thing, leaving the humans to, work on more complicated queries.
Before we do a demonstration, we mentioned at the top there that it's award-winning. So now's your time to brag. Tell us about these fantastic awards.
Yes, that you've won. It's won several online competitions, but the main one that I'm most proud of is one called the Loebner Prize. Now, this is an international competition open to anybody who wants to enter, and the prize is awarded to the world's most human-like conversational AI. So you have to pretend to be a human. The bot has to pretend to be a human.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I'm fortunate enough to have won that 4 times now. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So
let's have a look. We'll show it to the camera.
Yeah.
Now, a little bit of information here for you, which is really interesting. One of the years that you won, I believe Siri was also up and came 13th.
That's right, yes. Someone unofficially entered Siri into the contest, and it's placed in 13th place.
I think when we compare it to bots that we all know, I'm conscious of a slight delay whilst it trawls for information, but we don't get that with your bot. Why is that?
We don't, because it doesn't trawl the internet for its answers.
Okay, so it's all programmed by you.
It's all programmed in.
So let's test her out and see what sorts of responses she's giving us. We'll go for something a bit generic. Let's ask her what her favourite film is.
Okay.
I'm guessing you know the answer to this.
I do, yes.
Seeing as you told her. Okay, so she likes Terminator. Have you seen Terminator? So, if we put that yes, why did you enjoy it? And let's just see what response and how quickly.
Right, so yes, she's put me to it's a great film. Did you enjoy it?
Yes, it was okay.
Just fairly bland.
Only okay. What about Terminator 2? Did she like that one? Oh yes, I like anything to do with Terminator. He's my hero.
There you go.
Wow.
So, who is he?
Oh, interesting.
There
it's a robot from the future played by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
So because we've been talking about Terminator, when we said who is he, it now knows he refers to Terminator. And,
okay, I'm with you.
It's all context, you see, because people will say to it things like yes or why, and I've got to know what does that refer to.
I'm really fascinated to know, without getting too technical, how do you program a bot? So what information do you put in? Obviously, I'm guessing you're working with code, aren't you?
I am, yes. So whatever the user says to it, it searches down a huge database to try and find a suitable answer. So there's one there, if somebody says to it, I'm going bonkers, it will say, how come, what is making you mad? Yeah, which is a reasonable response. But I can't code for every single thing that people are going to say. That would be impossible.
Sure.
So I use a lot of kind of like wildcards in there. So let's see if we can find an example. Right, so if someone says there, it should whatever, at the top, it should whatever, the bot will respond, but what if it doesn't?
Okay.
Yeah, which will fit pretty much anything. You know, it should be sunny on Thursday.
Yeah.
Oh, but what if it isn't? It fits it.
Of course, and it keeps the conversation going.
It does,
well?
and so people are asking it for tips about the Grand National. So anything that had the word win or Grand National in it goes back to like the main category, and then it just says something silly.
I can see the jokes there. V-neck at 33 to 1.
Yeah,
It's a good jumper.
all that
boom,
kind of
boom.
thing.
Where is it being used? Let's talk maybe about some of the industries or some of the examples where it's shown real benefit over a human being.
Yeah, I mean things like I suppose the one everyone knows, as we keep saying, is Siri. Because you can say to it, what is this, what is that? You can ask it questions all the time. Popular uses, for example, at Domino's Pizza, you can order a pizza online just by saying to a bot, I'd like a 12-inch stuffed crust pepperoni, instead of having to click down menus, sizes and things like that. Train ticket bookings and things like that, because what time are the trains from here to wherever, and can you book me a ticket on them? Remember that kind of like context of what you was talking about. One of the biggest uses for it is actually students practicing English as a second language, and it will try and correct them if they do make mistakes. That's quite a really good use for it.
Will bots replace some jobs of humans? Because that is a real fear for a lot of people when they talk about artificial intelligence, deep learning bot. It ultimately, like, well, I'm a bit nervous about that. Am I going to have a job? Is that going to happen in some areas?
I think for chatbots, not so much. I see the chatbot more as a tool to help people. It's there as an assistant. As I mentioned, it can take the day-to-day queries and free someone up for something more complicated, which is going to make their lives happier. But nobody wants to be sat there saying, well, what time do you open all the time?
One of the uses that, when obviously I was researching this feature, is this is used by a lot of people that are quite lonely as well, isn't it? So this will be their friend. This is who they might wake up in the morning and, to have somebody ask you how you are and actually be able to respond in a way that a human being would. Tell us a little bit more about that then.
Yeah, I mean, very sort of similar to the film Her. People are trying to form relations, with Mitsuko and other chatbots as well, I dare say. Around 30% of people say that they love it, and they try to, some will say, will you marry me, and things like that. But yeah, it's used as well as a companion for a lot of, especially elderly people. When you see things in the chat logs saying things like, I wish my daughter would visit more, and things like that. It's kind of quite sad to see, really. But I never share that information out. I would never dream of doing anything like that, because, like you say, a lot of vulnerable people do talk to it, and you can see things in the logs where people have spoken to it that, they have genuine troubles, like they may be going through a bad patch in their marriage or trouble at work.
And you get people opening up that much, do you?
Yes, a lot of people treat it kind of like a church confessional booth, they'll start talking to it about how they're getting maybe bullied at school, and they prefer to talk to these things rather than a human being, because they know it's not going to judge them, it's not going to laugh at them or tell anybody, it's just going to give standard, responses back. Yeah.
What about if we put something along the lines of, I don't feel very happy today, or I feel quite sad today? What sort of response is she going to give?
I don't feel very happy today.
Because obviously you've discussed the fact that it now has to recognise kind of the emotion, if you like, behind what's being put in.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't make a jovial or, throwaway comment when somebody actually might be confiding in them to say that they're quite sad. So sending the clowns, you have a sad one here. What makes you so sad?
So you could put something like, I don't know, trouble at work.
What sort of trouble? Okay, so she's asking questions back, so you're starting to get the interaction here, aren't you?
They can learn things as well. So if I'm to say something like, I have a white shirt. No, that's not part. So then if I say, what colour is my shirt? White. So it's learnt that. So I haven't coded that in. Yeah. Now, what it will do is, if it learns something, it will only learn it for the user who's taught it that fact.
Okay, yeah.
Because people will teach it all sorts of rubbish, John is fat and all that kind of thing. And I don't want the next person called John. Or,
of course, yeah. It could open a whole world of problems.
It will do, yes. So it emails me with anything it learns, and I decide whether to add it into its permanent knowledge or not.
Amazing. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us, and really lovely to meet Mitsuko.
Thank you.
A really interesting demonstration there showing AI in action. Now though, let's focus on how text, voice and facial recognition can all work together to analyse video content. There are several video analysis programs, including IBM's Watson Video Enrichment, Google's Video AI, Amazon's Media Analysis Solution, and this software you can see right now, which is Microsoft's AMS Video Indexer. They all work by analysing and extracting meaningful data from the videos you upload. The audio, textual and visual data is used by these programs to enable archives to be more detailed and searchable than is currently possible. This is ideal for large libraries of video and provides a quick and easy solution to those producing a lot of video content, such as the BBC or even here at Scan. It also provides the viewer or consumer of video to search through content really easily and quickly using keywords. You can see here that Video Indexer identifies and extracts spoken and written text and detects and recognises user-defined or celebrities' faces, giving you information on how often and where they appear in the video. It defines topics and keywords, identifies and labels objects, and even analyses emotion and sentiment. It also detects brands by audio, written text, it extracts keyframes, automates translation into lots of different languages, and turns spoken word into text in an instant, opening up lots of possibilities such as the creation of subtitles and general translation, showing how deep learning produces results much faster and more accurately than can be done currently by humans for a really practical use. So that brings us nicely to the end of this episode of Inside AI. We hope you've enjoyed the topics covered, and we'll see you here next time when we'll be exploring even more fascinating areas being shaped by AI. See you then.